These players could be massive values in fantasy football this year. We're going to give you the data as to huge. We're going to give you the data as to why. We're going to look at some data as to how they can help you win their leagues, why they could have bounce back seasons. This is going to be something that we've done a lot of research into, so you're going to want to stick around and make sure you're getting these players on your fantasy and best ball rosters. Do us a huge favor. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We're getting there very quickly. We really appreciate if you help us out with that. We promise we won't let you down. We'll bring you in-depth research and analysis as it relates to fantasy football. And also, you want your fantasy team, your best ball team, your dynasty team graded by us on a personalized video? Make sure you head over to flockfantasy.com and use code DOMAIN. When you select the Mother Flocker tier, you will get a personalized team review video from the three of us sitting right here in the studio. And you will get to play in a league with us in our listener leagues that are available to our Mother Flocker tier supporters over there. We're really excited to be hosting on flockfantasy.com. Make sure you head over there and use code DOMAIN for all of our exclusive access rankings, things like that, and access from other creators too. It's a great product, so make sure you check it out. All right. Like I said, this video is going to be mainly about guys that we think are going to have bounce back seasons for one reason or another. And a lot of these
will.
Yeah. And
they will.
They will.
They will.
What did I say? Won't?
You said they might.
Okay.
That think.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, among 450,000 entries into Best Ball Mania 3 last year, the average playoff rate, so how many teams that were drafted that player made into the Best Ball Mania playoffs, that was 16.6%. Pretty simple math. These players all heavily disappointed. These ones that we're giving you all heavily disappointed last season. And as a result, they appear to be really, really good values right now. And the first one's at the QB position. And this is really nice because you can completely load up at other positions and then go get one of these QBs that has kind of disappointed. This is going to be Russell Wilson. And last year, Russell Wilson had a 7.6% playoff rate. So that's not
ouch.
Good.
Half average.
That's like, yeah, half average.
Average.
Right. So as a result, and we understand, Russell Wilson did not ride last year. The Broncos country did not ride. He's going as the QB 18 on Underdog Fantasy. He's going at pick 132. That's a
14th.
long way from the top.
Cheap.
If you want to rock and roll. Anyways, people are worried that Russ is a product of a system, and that being Pete Carroll's system in Seattle. Well, in a Sean Payton system from 2006 to 2020, Drew Brees, know that name, averaged 23 points per game, finishing as the QB1 in 62% of his 228 games.
So it's pretty decent sample size there for you.
Yeah, 62%. That is staggering. And pre-Sean Payton, Drew Brees from 2001 to 2005 averaged just 15.4 fantasy points per game. So fun fact for you there. Russ in his career as a system QB from 2012 to 2021.
System QB.
Oh, yeah, system, sorry.
Because that's what people are convinced of.
Averaged 22 points per game, and it was a QB1 in 54% of his 158 games. After moving to Denver, his production took a sudden drop, and he had 17.9 points per game last year. So we're betting that after getting rid of Hackett, being back in a good system, Russ will return to his old form this year and be at a 20 points per game level. That's semi-bold. But when you're looking at the data, like I said, with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, how Sean Payton really does get the best out of his quarterback and really does tailor his offense to be around the quarterback's best skills, I think that Russell Wilson is absolutely, and these guys too, think that Russell Wilson is due for a bounce back year. And even, here's the thing, the risk on this one is going to be super low because when you're talking about where you're getting them, like I said, 13th, 14th round, that is cheap. The risk is absolutely baked into his price. I think it's baked into his price twice over.
Well, you look at Daniel Jones last year, who had a crazy high playoff rate on his own.
Where was he
Guess
going?
where he was being drafted? QB 21, and he finished as a QB 10. And Russ, in my eyes, is offering similar upside here. He's being drafted as a mid QB 2, and he can easily be someone who comes out and gives you a QB 1 finish back in a potent offense with Sean Payton leading and calling the plays.
Yeah, and if you really are betting against Russell Wilson this year, you are betting that the Broncos essentially got completely fleeced, like all-time fleeced. I'm not willing to bet that yet. They could have. I'm willing to bet on Russell Wilson, and I'm really, really, really willing to bet on Sean Payton than anybody. Not to mention they have Russell Wilson has Tim Patrick, who's the clear wide receiver 1 in that room, according to Sleeper Alerts. So Russell Wilson looking like a great value this year, looking like somebody you can get cheap and could potentially have league-winning upside. The next guy on this list is going to be Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, so Jonathan Taylor, last season, definitely was disappointing from a points per game perspective, from a total production perspective. Struggled with some injury on one of the worst teams in the NFL. It's why the Colts got the 4th overall pick. It's history now. Let's just forget it. 7.8% playoff rate last year. But what we want to do is we want to touch on his production in 2020 and 2021. We don't need to tell you about the dominance of Jonathan Taylor historically, but we're going to anyways, because all of a sudden it seems like we actually have to, because everyone in fantasy is shorting him, and he's going consistently from the mid to the tail end of the second round even. And
on underdog drafts. So a lot of people will get in our comments and say, actually, he's going in the first round. Yeah, ESPN's going to be a little bit more casual drafting. When you have the hardcore best ball drafts on underdog,
real money.
He's going code domain 30% underdog. Do it. He's going mid-second, late second, which is cheap. Sorry. So I had to put that caveat in there.
No, you're good. You're good. Look, since becoming the starter in week 11 of 2020, the season of 2020, he's had 22.8 points per game. Running back won 74% of the games that he's played in. In 2021, he was, get ready for this, first in carries, first in fantasy points per game, first in juke rate, first in evaded tackles, first in breakaway runs, first in yards created, first in rushing yards, first in total touchdowns, first in red zone touches, and first in dominator rating.
That's 10 things.
That is 10 efficiency metrics, 10 production metrics that actually mean something when it comes to the skill and the future production of a running back in the NFL.
Is that good?
If last season wasn't an outlier, I don't really know what is. For one, when you look at Jonathan Taylor's best season, he had his only really, since he's come into the NFL, Carson Wentz was the most mobile QB that he's ever played with, and that happened to be the season that he was most productive. Now he's going into a year where you have a rookie quarterback in Anthony Richardson, who last time I checked is a little bit athletic and slightly not super talented in the passing game when it comes to an accuracy perspective. It's gonna take him a while to get used to the NFL. It's gonna take him a while to develop. What do you think the Colts are gonna lean on this season with a developing quarterback?
The defense.
Yeah. They're gonna pass the ball 40 times a game, and they're not really going to give the ball to Jonathan Taylor. Actually, fun fact, it's the opposite, okay? What are we thinking drafting him at 17 overall?
I think I'm going to win some leagues.
He has serious league-winning upside. Are we actually going to do this again? There is an argument to be made that last season, Jonathan Taylor was going higher than he should have. But honestly, in fantasy, I don't really think he was going higher than he should have. It just ended up being a very unfortunate season.
Overall.
He was going first overall.
Yeah.
He literally has first overall upside this year. Even with a run blocking rating being number 42 in 2021, Jonathan Taylor finished as a running back 1.
Is that good?
Anthony Richardson and the improvements to the offensive line both help the run game. One other point I want to make here is look at Miles Sanders' production in the Eagles offense last season, and you can basically apply that to Jonathan Taylor this season because of Shane Steichen entering that offense.
Times 2, though.
But times 2 because Jonathan Taylor is a better running back than Miles Sanders.
Yeah. Let me say one thing on this. In 2021, Jonathan Taylor was drafted 12th overall, so just inside the first round. Because he was not respected then, his league winning rate was 43%.
It's going to happen again.
Because he was faded so much, he became a great value, and 43% of the teams that made it to the playoff that owned him made it to the playoffs. He's getting that same treatment this year. Don't fade him this much. He is a league winner, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the next guy on this list is going to be Naji Harris.
Yeah, so Naji Harris, another one of those guys that was going in the first round of fantasy drafts last season, and I think in best ball too, with an 8% playoff rate last year. Incredibly disappointing, incredibly inefficient. His receiving upside was dang near cut in half.
Yep.
Everything that you expected from Naji Harris, he did not deliver, and he was completely inconsistent. Even in 2022, with all that being said, Naji Harris was still 7th in opportunities and 5th in carries. His downfall was being 111th in
fantasy points
over expected per game. So 9th in the league in stuffed runs. His offensive line last year was beyond terrible. 55th in run block rating. We will not be the first to tell you that we think Najee Harris is an elite runner of the football. We will be the first to tell you that his situation has drastically improved going into this season, and the way that the Pittsburgh Steelers utilize him is going to drastically improve as well. If we've mentioned this before, but if you look at Najee Harris's game log towards the end of last season compared to the first half of the year, his efficiency increased quite notably because of how they utilized him in that offense, where they limited his snap share, and pretty much every time they put him out there, he was getting carries, and they didn't ask much more of him outside of that from like a pass blocking perspective or anything like that. Najee Harris, as an NFL player, has his limitations, but from a fantasy upside perspective this season, I really think the sky is the limit. 2 years ago, he was being drafted at ADP 18.9. Najee is still,
in his rookie year.
Yeah, as a rookie. Najee still boasted a 24.7% playoff rate at that price. Now he's going significantly lower. We can expect his production to get, I would think, relatively close to what he did his rookie year. And at that point, what do you think his playoff rate is going to be? Probably close to about 20%.
Again.
Yeah, and running behind an improved offensive line, Broderick Jones, Isaac Sumalo, and Darnell Washington, who is a very, very respected rookie tight end in the run game specifically as a blocker. He's very, very talented. Look, he can provide some league-winning upside at ADP in the early 4th round this season.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. Our next guy on this list is going to be Kyle Pitts. And Kyle Pitts, obviously, he last year he had a 9.5% playoff rate. He's being drafted as the tight end 5 right now, and his ADP is about 70. So he's going like 5th, 6th round right now, which, look, the elephant in the room is that Kyle Pitts is a generational talent. You absolutely cannot deny that. He was drafted 4th overall just 2 seasons ago, and that makes him the highest drafted tight end since 2000. And a lot of people want to ask the question. A lot of people, especially in dynasty circles, act like he hasn't backed that up. So we asked the question, has he actually backed that up? When you're looking at the 396 tight ends that were drafted since 2000, Kyle Pitts, his 63.6 yards per game puts him at 2nd behind Ryan Krause, who only played 1 game. So really, if you set a minimum threshold there, Kyle Pitts would be first in that.
Yep.
His 20% rookie target market share as a rookie placed him 3rd all time. That was behind Ryan Krause and Jeremy Shockey. Last year's 27% target rate was 2nd in the league among tight ends, only below Mark Andrews. It not only demonstrates his dominance in that offense, but it also demonstrates Arthur Smith's his desire to utilize Kyle Pitts. What I do think is there. The problem was last year, Marcus Mariota, not super good at that. Not a super accurate quarterback. Not super good. That does matter for a tight end, how the quarterback plays. That typically has an effect on how your tight end's going to produce in fantasy. He's really a ticking time bomb when you think about it.
He's going to break out.
He's going to break out. I mean, last year, he was number 1 in target rate. He was number 1 in air yard share. He was number 1 in deep targets. He was number 1 in unrealized air yards. That's a really good stat to be number 1 in if you're talking about somebody who could potentially boom this year, who could potentially have a bounce back year. Not to mention he was 2nd in target share at 27.3%. So I would say that's pretty good. He pretty much held 1/3 of his entire passing offense on his own, which is Devontae Adams level dominance, if you ask me. I mean, he has considerable risk. Yes, I do understand it. It is possible this year they come out, they don't utilize him correctly, or Drake London goes off, or Bijan gets so much workload that Kyle Pitts just doesn't perform. However, Kyle Pitts already done it. Rookie year. Check it out. Pretty good. Probably the best rookie year from tight end we've ever seen. So to say that he hasn't done it, is wrong. To say that he won't do it again is definitely wrong. Why wouldn't it be this year? Why would last year not be the outlier? Kyle Pitts, and like I said, when you're getting him at cost, he's actually a pretty freaking good pick. And his league winning upside could be significantly higher this year because you're getting him so cheap. I believe last year he was probably going in the 2nd round, right?
No, I don't think so. We can pull it up.
Because he had 1,000 yards his rookie year.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was. I'm pretty sure he was going that high last year. So
some people.
Now,
not me.
I think it's fair to say that he has league-winning upside this year. So next guy on this list and the last guy on this list is going to be Elijah Moore.
Yeah, Elijah Moore was definitely someone we were all heavily fading last year. Last year, he was way overdrafted and had a 9.6% playoff rate, so still someone hovering around cutting the average rate in half. But this year, he's being drafted as wide receiver 44 in the 7th and 8th rounds. That he's absolutely priced where he should have been, considering he's going into a new offense. He has Deshaun Watson now. He has Amari Cooper next to him. And he still has the talent. Last year, like I said, he was heavily overdrafted, and that was because of a 7-game stretch in his rookie year where Elijah Moore scored 17.7 points per game over that 7-game stretch. We'll put up the game log right there.
You mean that one?
Yep, that one.
Game log?
In 2021, as a rookie, he had a 25% target rate, which was 30th in the league, and it was really good considering how much he was playing not in a slot where he's comfortable. And he was still 9th in route wins among all wide receivers. So as a rookie, he won more routes than guys who have been in the league for 5-6 years and they're veterans. Elijah Moore is very talented wide receiver. He was drafted in the 2nd round and dang near the first. He was drafted at like the 202 in 2021. And like we said, now he's joining Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper, and he will have all the opportunity in the world. Yes, David Njoku is there. Yes, Donovan Peoples-Jones is there as well. But these guys are not guys who have shown in their career that they can command targets. And Elijah Moore is coming into an offense where he has someone we've seen be a very prolific passer at points in his career, and Amari Cooper, who has not been, we saw when he was playing with CeeDee Lamb, he did not just absolutely dominate the target share. So Elijah Moore going as wide receiver 44, definitely, I mean, when you look at the elite quarterbacks in the league, their top 2 receivers are often finishing both inside the top 36. So Elijah Moore going as a wide receiver 4 right now has a really good opportunity to outperform that and become a league-winning option, maybe someone you see with 18 to 20% playoff rate with how low he's going right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know in the comments who you think potential bounce-back candidates for this year that could win leagues are. By the way, Kyle Pitts, ADP last year 25, so he was going at the tail end of the 2-3 turn.
Yeah.
So, again, these guys, because of their price, because of their circumstances, because of their situations, they could potentially, I really identify the people with the highest league win rate or playoff rate, they're usually the guys that are going later in these rounds that nobody expects it. So our job as fantasy content creators is to try and predict who that is, given the data that we have access to. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here. But again, let us know in the comments who you think fits this mold as well. We'd really love to hear it. Make sure you're heading over to flockfantasy.com and using code DOMAIN. You'll get a personalized team grading video from the 3 of us, which I know you want us to grade your team. So make sure you just do the Mother Flocker tier. You also get 30% off if you use code DOMAIN. So make sure you're doing that as well. Not only access to our content, but other people's content, other good creators, Flock Fantasy, Dynastyland, etc. Great content over there, so make sure you're using code DOMAIN and doing the Mother Flocker tier. Make sure you've liked the video, make sure you've subscribed, and make sure you have a fantastic day. We'll see you later.